former Arkansas quarterback Ryan Mallett died in an apparent drowning in Okaloosa County. That's over by where Destin is in Florida. He was 35 years old. Mallett played at Michigan in 2007 under Lloyd Carr. After Lloyd Carr stepped down, Mallett transferred to Arkansas, played for Bobby Petrino, helped really build that program during the Petrino years in 2009 and 2010. Left early for the NFL, played for the Patriots, the Texans, the Ravens, had quite a few starts, I think mostly for the Texans. Just a really, really tragic story, and our thoughts and prayers are obviously with Mallett's family. The reason I bring this up is Mallett, interestingly enough, has a weird Tennessee football connection with Ryan Mallett. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but in 2007, right after that year, Tennessee had just won the East. Eric Ainge was graduating. David Cutcliffe had taken the job at Duke. Tennessee was in the market for an offensive coordinator. Now, Michigan and Lloyd Carr had just parted ways, and Lloyd Carr's staff had parted ways too, as Michigan had gone after Rich Rodriguez. Mike DeBord, who became Tennessee's offensive coordinator, interestingly enough, 8 years later, under Butch Jones running the spread, was a pro-style coach around that time. DeBord was very, very adaptable to different offensive schemes. It was very possible that Tennessee would have brought in Mike DeBord to replace David Cutcliffe. If you guys don't know this, Mike DeBord actually coached Tom Brady. So Tennessee has had the offensive coordinators that coached Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in college. Yeah, Mike DeBord coached Tom Brady. He was there when Michigan won their national title in '97. Guy was very well respected. We talk about Dobbs saving Butch Jones's career, but part of that, what helped was Mike DeBord was there in 2015 and 2016 too. And when DeBord left, the program sank. I bring this up because Ryan Mallett could have ended up at Tennessee when he hit the transfer portal in 2007. Had Fulmer hired Mike DeBord as offensive coordinator, it seems very, very likely that Ryan Mallett goes to Tennessee as the quarterback at that point. What does that mean? Well, we don't really know because 2008 was still there. And in 2008, does Jonathan Crompton have more success with Mike DeBord as head coach than Dave Clawson? Possibly. And so that's very, very intriguing to look at. How would Mike DeBord handle Jonathan Crompton? He clearly is pretty good with quarterbacks with big arms. Ryan Mallett had a big arm. Does Fulmer do enough in 2008 to stay afloat? I don't think he goes 5-7, but if he goes 7-5, 8-4, does he still stay afloat through 2009? If you got Ryan Mallett coming in, I think maybe you do. And then say 2008, 2009, maybe Jonathan Crompton still holds the job as a senior quarterback. So the question really becomes 2010. Does Fulmer make it to 2010 with Mike DeBord coaching Ryan Mallett? I'm telling you, that could be a deadly, deadly combo. Ryan Mallett was a very, very good college quarterback. We saw that when he went to Arkansas to play with Bobby Petrino. That was a match made in heaven, and Mallett helped Arkansas. Again, now Arkansas's best season under Petrino came after he left. It was 2011. That year they went 11-2, and their only two losses were to the two teams to play for the national title, LSU and Alabama. But they did finish number 5. And in 2010, they did go to the Cotton Bowl, and they finished 10-3 and ranked number 12. And if you guys don't remember, they had arguably the most exciting offensive game in the history of football when they played Auburn. Auburn beat them 65-43. It was 2010, kind of set the stage that the SEC is headed into an offensive era. But they scored top 25 wins over South Carolina and Mississippi State on the road that year, number 6 LSU at home, and should have beaten Ohio State it wasn't the Cotton Bowl, it was the Sugar Bowl. I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. But Mallett was a very good quarterback, and you wonder, if Fulmer hires Mike DeBord and Mallett goes to Tennessee, does Tennessee ever fall into the decade of dysfunction in the 2010s? I mean, it's a very, very interesting question to look at because Ryan Mallett was a very good quarterback, and DeBord would have done a better job with Crompton than Dave Clawson did. Obviously, if you guys are questioning about Crompton, Ryan Mallett would not have been able to play in 2008. There was the whole, you have to sit out a year when you transfer back during those days. So that's why the question is, what would Fulmer have done with Jonathan Crompton? Another question, what if Trooper Taylor was promoted to offensive coordinator as Cutcliffe's replacement? Does Ryan Mallett still go to Tennessee? Does Ryan Mallett go to Tennessee then? I mean, these are a lot of questions that are kind of unanswered. I don't think he does. I think Ryan Mallett was looking for the best possible quarterbacks coach, and that was Bobby Petrino at the time, however you feel about it. But we're talking, as I'm talking this through with you guys, a very, very, very strong possibility that Fulmer kind of has a second win because of Mike DeBord and Ryan Mallett in the 2010s. And in case you guys forgot, the SEC East was really bad after Tim Tebow left Florida in 2009. South Carolina won it with a 9-3 record in 2010. I actually might have even been 8-4 with Steve Spurrier. It was the only time they won the East. That would have been Ryan Mallett's year starting no matter what. Had he been at Tennessee with Mike DeBord, it would have been the peak Mallett year. Tennessee went 6-7 that year. That was the 13 men on the field penalty year with LSU. I'm telling you guys right now, if Ryan Mallett is starting that year and Mike DeBord's running the offense and Fulmer's still head coach, they probably win the East. Now, they probably lose to Auburn. Don't get me wrong. They probably lose to Auburn because Cam Newton is having his Heisman year at Auburn in the SEC championship that year. But Tennessee is still staying afloat and showing that they're not falling off, and then they probably are still able to recruit at a high level, maybe even a higher level at this point. Because remember, Georgia was 6-6 in 2009 and 2010. That would have been the time for Fulmer to be able to have the second win, because Tennessee is at its best when Georgia's at its worst, because they can pluck talent out of Georgia. So if Tennessee stayed afloat in 2008 and 2009 and had a very good year with Ryan Mallett in 2010 winning the East, I think at that point you might see Tennessee going back to what they were doing in the 90s, which is just poaching the best talent possible right out of the state of Georgia. And then you're talking Fulmer having a second win in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, and maybe getting another national championship in there. Travis, you're trying to be a little sarcastic, Travis, saying he got the most out of Brady in college too. Oh, wait. Well, that wasn't Mike DeBord's fault, okay? In case you guys forgot, Mike DeBord, I'm going to pull up his background now, but Mike DeBord was at the Michigan offensive coordinator from 97 to 99. And in 99, had Lloyd Carr not forced Drew Henson on Mike DeBord when Brady was clearly the better quarterback at that time, Michigan probably goes undefeated and wins the national championship that year. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. The two games they lost because they were alternating quarterbacks and Drew Henson dug a big hole and Tom Brady had to bring it back both times. In 97, you're conveniently ignoring, Travis, that in 97 as offensive coordinator with Brian Griese at quarterback, Mike DeBord helped Michigan win a national title and propel Brian Griese into an NFL draft pick, which he was not an NFL draft caliber player. Just sorry, he wasn't. And again, go back and look at what he did with Josh Dobbs at Tennessee. I mean, again, Josh Dobbs had as much to do with that as Mike DeBord himself. Mike DeBord did fail as a head coach at Central Michigan from 2000 to 2003. But I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe the reason he failed as a head coach at Central Michigan was because his offensive coordinator was none other than Butch Jones. Yep, that guy. That guy was his offensive coach. So maybe... And then, of course, he went to work under Butch Jones years later. Oh, and also Mike DeBord came back to Michigan in 2006 and 2007. And that's when Michigan had their revitalization from the 7-5 year in 2005. And then went 11-0 for the first 11 games of 2006 and finished 11-2, having just barely lost to Ohio State, who was undefeated that year. So I think you're underselling how well this could have worked out had Mike DeBord gone to Tennessee. He was running the pro style. He would have been a perfect fit for Fulmer's system. He coached tight ends. It was everything you could want, honestly, at the moment. And when Mike DeBord left and went to Indiana, when he left Tennessee and went there in 2017, Tennessee fell off. So this is a big what if. What if Tennessee hires Mike DeBord as offensive coordinator instead of Dave Clawson? What if Ryan Mallett ends up at Tennessee? What happens with the program then, particularly with Georgia falling apart during that middle period under Mark Richt? They had like a renaissance in the mid-2010s, but they were bad in 2000. They were bad after Stafford left, and they were bad in 2009 and 2010 because of that. And that falling off could have really, really helped Tennessee kind of reach another level again under Georgia. So you really have to wonder, Mike, if this is just one of the biggest questions out there. What if Phillip Fulmer had hired Mike DeBord as his offensive coordinator in 2007 after David Cutcliffe left? So it's kind of a very intriguing thing to think about. And that's where Ryan Mallett's connection to Tennessee comes in. But again, we are all thinking about Ryan Mallett. It's a very tragic story. He was a pleasure to watch in college football. It's just a really, really, really sad story. So again, our thoughts and prayers are all with Ryan Mallett's family.